두 남성 중 누가 여성에게 인기가 더 많을까요? 사실 정답은 여성의 마음에 달려 있습니다. 이는 생물학적인 이유 때문인데요.
You got to think, what is nature? Well, nature is trees and landscapes and animals and all of that. But that isn't what nature fundamentally is. Nature fundamentally is that which selects from a genetic perspective. And it is the case that human females are sexually selective. It's a major component of human behaviors. Female chimpanzees are more likely to have offspring from dominant males, but it's not because of their sexual selectivity. So a female chimpanzee has periods of fertility by observable physiological changes. Not the case with human females. Human female ovulation is concealed. So that's a very profound biological difference. And the chimpanzee females will mate with any male, but the dominant males chase the subordinate males away. But human females are sexually selective, and it's not a trivial fact. So you have twice as many female ancestors as male ancestors. You think, well, how can that be? Well, imagine that on average, every single human female has had one child throughout the entire course of history. Then imagine that half of the men had 0 and the other half had 2. So half of males, historically speaking, have been reproductive disasters. And the reason for that is because of female sexual selectivity. So it is actually the case that female humans are nature. As far as reproduction is concerned, they are the force of nature that does the selection.
문제는 대부분 여성들이 자신과 비슷하거나 자신보다 더 나은 사회적 위치의 남성을 선택하고 싶어 한다는 데 있습니다.
As women have entered the workforce, they've actually driven inequality because rich women will only marry rich men as rich as them or richer, whereas rich men will marry women who are poorer than them, but women won't. It's another factor that's pooling wealth in the hands of fewer and fewer people.
전체 여성 인구가 10명이라면 상위권 남성들만 몰표를 받습니다.
Men are more likely to compete for socioeconomic status, and that's partly because that drives female mate choice. So the correlation for men between socioeconomic status and sexual success is about 0.6, and for women it's 0. Yeah. 0. In fact, it's actually slightly negative. Yeah. So, and that's a huge difference between men and women.
The subtitle for the book is The Woman Who Never Evolved. We didn't evolve for niceness and cooperative. There's immense competition to compete for the dominant males.
No doubt about that.
얼핏 보면 외모, 학벌, 실력 등을 두루 다 갖춘 남성이 드물기 때문에 커플이 될 확률은 낮은 것으로 보입니다. 하지만 하이퍼가미에 따르면 상위 30%를 제외한 나머지 여성들이 상위 40%의 남성에게 몰리는 것이 원인이 될 수 있습니다. 여성 입장에서 남자가 없다는 말의 해석이 가능해지는데요. 외모와 케미만큼 중요한 남녀관계 형성을 위해 참고해야 할 사항들입니다. 30대 여성들이 로펌을 그만두는 이유.
The women wanted to have 9-to-5 jobs so they could have a life, and that was especially true once they got interested in having a child or had one. Because they were highly conscientious women, they sort of did their duty and worked hard and diligently and didn't pop their head up to ask questions. They were in junior high, they got the best grades. They were in high school, they got the best grades, and so on, all the way through, right till they reached partnership. You hit partnership in a senior law firm, it's like you're at the top of your profession. Well, then what? Well, so then they looked around and they thought, here I am with all these like hyper-competitive men, perfectly willing to work 80 hours a week, non-stop, to stay at the top. What the hell are they doing? Well, what about the rest of life? Well, that's what the women asked. Why am I doing this?
What happens to the women when they're in their 30s? They all leave the high-end law firms. Why? Because who in their right mind would want to live like that? That's the issue, right? Once you make about $60,000 a year, additional income has zero impact on your quality of life. Zero. So why work 80 hours a week? Well, men will do it. Some men, very few. A handful of hyper-competitive men who are obsessed with hitting the pinnacle of the given dominance hierarchy they're in, and they'll forego everything else. Relationships, family, children, way in the second categories. But they're damn good at what they do, and part of that is they're smart and disciplined, and they'll work non-stop all the time. And that's the sort of people who run things, especially because they're often married by that point too, and generally they've married a husband who makes as much money or more than them. So they don't need the damn money. And so they go and find a job that's 9 to 5 and controllable so that they can hire a nanny and have some kids and have a life. Yes, that's the intelligent thing to do. So we've got things backwards in our culture. We're thinking, at least in part, why aren't there more women in positions of power? Wrong. wrong question. The right question is, why are there any men at all who want those positions of power? Oh, it's a position of power, sure, but it's a position of overwhelming responsibility. And if you make mistakes, you're done.
피터슨 교수는 이런 상황에서 성평등을 강조하는 것은 논리적으로 맞지 않다고 말합니다.
So like a 50-50 distribution of men and women in the workplace. But you're also going to exacerbate certain kinds of inequality. So you cannot have equality of opportunity and equality of outcome together. They don't work together.
원하는 여성을 얻을 때까지 남성들이 해야 하는 것이 있습니다.
You never can have an ideal woman. So to have a relationship with any woman, you have to sacrifice the relationship with the ideal woman, and you have to see the individual woman and separate her from the ideal. And that's the same thing that happens to the hero in Sleeping Beauty, right? He sees the evil queen who actually turns into the dragon of chaos, and it's not until he can defeat her that he can establish a relationship with the actual princess. One of my clients who ran this men's group, which was quite interesting, one of the things they had to do, which was very intelligent, was to go out and ask 50 women in one day for their phone numbers. Why? Politely, properly, you know. It was a game, but it wasn't a stupid game. And the idea was, get over your fear of rejection. And how do you do that? By encountering it continually and continually and continually, so that you're no longer paralyzed.
만일 당신 앞에 어떤 남성이 바보 같아 보인다면 진짜 바보가 아니라 당신을 좋아해서일 수도 있습니다.
My clinical clients, but also young men I've talked to in general, are absolutely terrified of women because they're terrified of being rejected. It's often why men make such fools of themselves in front of women that they're attracted to. It's because, first of all, they don't see the woman that they're attracted to.
자신만의 이상적인 여성상을 머릿속에 그려놓는 모습을 외모지상주의, 여성미의 상품화라고만 생각하는 것은 단편적입니다.
They don't see her as an individual. They see her as the manifestation of a judgmental ideal.